With summer in full swing, I feel that familiar urge to refresh my closet, but I'm not trying to waste money on pieces that I'm going to wear once or for just one season. And that's where Quince comes in. Their clothes are timeless, feel luxurious, look elevated, and the quality is way beyond what you'd expect for the price. I just got a white linen maxi dress. Now, if I had paid for that dress in a department store, I would have paid $170. Well, guess what? I got it for $69. And by the way, that same dress comes in blue pinstripe. Think 100% European linen top starting at $30. Washable silk dresses and skirts and soft cotton sweaters. Versatile warm weather pieces that you're going to reach for again and again. And the best part, everything with Quince is half the cost of similar brands. By working directly with top artisans and cutting out the middlemen, Quince gives you luxury without the markup. And Quince only works with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices and premium fabrics and finishes. So you've got to give your summer closet an upgrade with Quince. Go to quince.com/Kate Casey for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/Kate Casey to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/Kate Casey.
I've got 20 minutes to Run Club meets, and it's time for a quick pre-workout snack. Go-Go Squeeze Active Fruit Blend to the rescue. Made with select B vitamins to help release energy, it's an easy, squeezable pouch made to move with me. The taste? So good. And made with real fruit. Even better. Whether I'm hitting the trail or meeting my friends on the court, this is my go-to on-the-go snack. Quick, easy, ready when I am. When it's go time, I go with Go-Go Squeeze Active. Snag yours on your next door run. Search for Go-Go Squeeze on Amazon.
Welcome back for another episode of Reality Life with Kate Casey. Today I have two docuseries that are centered on stories about religion. The first is called Shiny Happy People, A Teenage Holy War, and the second is The Religion Business. Both expose how faith can be intertwined with power and control, revealing the often hidden cost behind religious movements and organizations. Together, these two stories reveal the deeper cost of unchecked religious authority. One is about how vulnerable followers, especially the youth, are manipulated in the name of God, and how the structures meant to inspire faith can, in the wrong hands, become instruments of exploitation. The second dares to ask the hard questions. What happens when belief becomes a brand? When sermons become sales pitches, and when ministries morph into multi-million-dollar machines? Following the breakout success of Shiny Happy People, Duggar Family Secrets, the second season of the docuseries returns with A Teenage Holy War. This is a chilling expose on Teen Mania Ministries, once one of the largest and most influential evangelical youth organizations in the country. With charismatic preacher Ron Luce at the helm, Teen Mania drew in millions of teens with rock concert-style revivals, radical discipleship programs, and a militant message wrapped in Christian devotion. But beneath the surface was a world of psychological control, physical endurance rituals, spiritual gaslighting, and shattered lives. And then later in the episode, I speak with the creators of The Religion Business. This series pulls back the curtain on how some ministries have turned faith into an empire. Through hidden cameras, whistleblower testimony, and financial records, it exposes how the pursuit of power and profit has warped spiritual leadership into a corporate enterprise. So first, Shiny Happy People, A Teenage Holy War. So Teen Mania, as I mentioned, was once America's largest evangelical youth organization founded by Ron in the 1990s. It attracted millions of young people through stadium events and its Honor Academy internship program. This season of the series exposes disturbing practices, including a Navy SEAL-style endurance test, mock persecution simulations, and dangerous missionary trips. Following the tragedy at Columbine, the organization shifted toward militant rhetoric and political activism through its battle cry movement. Behind the inspiring facade, interns endured grueling conditions and damaging psychological manipulation. Though Teen Mania dissolved, its legacy continues, and the generation shaped by its militant ideology has matured into today's culture warriors. So through powerful archival footage, raw survivor testimonies, and expert analysis, Shiny Happy People exposes how a combination of religious fervor, psychological manipulation, and political ambition forged this new generation of kids that were primed for battle with devastating consequences that are still unfolding today. Now, what you should know is that Ron, who's at the center of teen mania, was a charismatic preacher with a vision, but also, unfortunately, with a megaphone. Born in 1961 and educated at Oral Roberts University and the University of Tulsa, he believed that he was called to spark a spiritual revolution among America's youth. In 1986, he founded Teen Mania Ministries in Tulsa, Oklahoma, with this mission to create a generation of world changers, young people who would take back culture for Christ. And for a while, he did just that. Like I said, these stadiums were packed, youth groups mobilized, and conservative churches rallied behind this message. But what started as energetic revival would later be exposed as something far more troubling. They became known for three things: Acquire the Fire, the Battle Cry campaign, and the infamous Honor Academy. Acquire the Fire was this touring youth rally, a sensory overload of Christian rock bands, pyrotechnics, impassioned sermons, and altar calls. And the goal, light a fire in the hearts of teens to reject secular culture and live radically for Christ. Then came Battle Cry. So if Acquire the Fire was a concert, Battle Cry was the call to war. Launched in 2005, it framed pop culture and modern values as threats to Christianity, which is absolutely absurd, and teens as these foot soldiers in a moral and spiritual battle. Marches were held, slogans screamed, and the language turned militaristic. And then behind the scenes, there was the Honor Academy, this year-long residential internship for the most dedicated followers. Think Sea Org. Pitched as a leadership boot camp, it demanded physical endurance, emotional obedience, and total spiritual submission. Interns participated in this disturbing ritual, which I told you about was sort of like the Navy SEALs, later named Pearl, which involved sleep deprivation, food restriction, blindfolded drills, and humiliation. And that was all under the banner of spiritual growth, because of course. So these teens were sent on mission trips, and they hosted televised rallies and attracted endorsements from political figures and mega pastors alike. But then, of course, the cracks begin to show, as they always do. So who are they targeting? Well, it wasn't just built on charisma and spectacle. It relied on targeting a specific, highly impressionable audience. They preyed on evangelical teens from conservative homes, often raised in insular environments where questioning authority or doctrine was discouraged. Many came from homeschooled or private Christian school backgrounds, where secular influences were limited and then obedience to spiritual leaders was framed as a divine mandate. These young people were often longing for purpose, identity, and belonging, and Teen Mania offered a powerful answer. You were chosen. You're a warrior. You're on the front lines of a cosmic battle between good and evil. And if you sacrificed your comfort, your relationships, and even your well-being, you could help save a generation. So this appealed to teens raised under that authoritarian parenting style, especially with limited access to broader cultural experiences or higher education opportunities. The parents were desperate to protect their children from the world, who saw Teen Mania as a safe path for spiritual growth and discipline. Like, look, our kids are fine if they're over there. Church youth groups were looking for mission opportunities and retreats that align with hardline values. Perfect. They'll take care of our kids. And then, of course, those who have survived trauma or instability and were drawn to the structure, discipline, and black and white world that Teen Mania offered. The Honor Academy especially drew in high school graduates who felt uncertain about college or were encouraged by their pastors to put God first before pursuing careers. And then once inside, they were isolated, as they all do, cut off from family, social media, outside influence. Many were told their doubts were just spiritual warfare, and any discomfort was a sign that God was refining them. So, Teen Mania basically preyed on idealism and obedience, and it exploited the vulnerability of these young people that were desperate to feel chosen, righteous, and in control of a very confusing world. Allegations against Teen Mania Ministries began surfacing publicly in the late 2000s, with a significant unraveling between 2010 and 2015. Former interns and staff began quietly speaking out about their negative experiences, particularly those that were tied to the Honor Academy and that Navy SEAL endurance event. Concern centered on emotional and psychological manipulation, like I said, the spiritual gaslighting, being told their doubts or trauma were the result of personal sin or demonic influence. So, at this stage, most complaints were shared anonymously on blogs or message boards because they were fearful of backlash from the evangelical community. But a pivotal moment came when a former intern, launched the Recovering Alumni blog, which compiled dozens of stories from former participants. And then it became a hub for whistleblowers detailing the health crisis during those crazy physical experiments, the suppression of mental illness, and cult-like isolation from the outside world. And the blog documented how those raised concerns were often shamed, gaslit, or exiled. It reminds me a lot of the Frank Report, which was about the NXIVM organization. And having a blog or a space like that back then was a place where people felt free to tell their stories, and it allowed outsiders to get a window into what they had experienced. The Evangelical Council for Financial Accountability stripped Teen Mania of its accreditation in 2014, citing financial mismanagement and lack of transparency. Teen Mania was accused of canceling mission trips without refunds, stranding volunteers abroad without adequate planning. Multiple families filed complaints and donors began pulling their support. And then in December of 2015, Ron officially announced that Teen Mania was shutting down. Now, he blamed the organization's collapse on shifting cultural winds and media attacks. But the survivor accounts and financial records, they told a different story. So after that, he made a few public apologies and instead pivoted to a new venture, of course, Generation Next, which was a leadership development project. He maintained that critics were just attacking a move of God and that adversity only proved their impact. But to this day, many former interns report that no acknowledgement, restitution, or formal apology from Ron or Teen Mania leaders has ever happened. So Shiny Happy People, the second season of this series, is 3 episodes, and it is on Amazon Prime. And then The Religion Business is a 7-part docuseries, which pulls back the curtain, as I said, on the dark underbelly of modern American Christianity, where some religious empires are built not on service or scripture, but on power, profit, and manipulation. So I'm joined very soon by Nathan Apfell and Chris Ayoub. They are creators of The Religion Business. They've been working on this for years. You can go to thereligionbusiness.com right now to watch it, but it will be streaming on other networks soon as well. They have traced the flow of nearly $1.4 trillion that the U.S. religious nonprofits receive annually. And their goal? To expose how churches and ministries built on faith sometimes operate more like unregulated, high-profit enterprises, that they're using hidden accounting, IRS loopholes, and emotional manipulation to extract wealth from donors. So, 2 very interesting doc-series centered around religion. And I know so many of you watched Shiny Happy People about the Duggar family. I believe it is the highest rated docuseries that Amazon Prime has had thus far. So I know that people are eager for information and really to have a broader conversation about how, when put in the wrong hands, religion and spirituality can get mixed up. So here is my interview with the co-creators of The Religion Business. This show is sponsored by Liquid IV. No matter how hot your summer gets, Liquid IV can help keep you hydrated for the adventures ahead. This summer, I'm traveling with my son Jack for lacrosse tournaments. Hot, blazing, sunny afternoons. There is nothing that tastes as good and keeps you as hydrated as Liquid IV. I just tear, pour, and enjoy. And I'm calling out to all of you parents who will also be watching your athletes this summer. This is a game changer. The sugar-free options include white peach, lemon lime, rainbow sherbet, and the new Arctic raspberry. But they've also got cotton candy or popsicle firecracker. Just 1 stick and 16 ounces of water hydrates better than water alone. 3 times the electrolytes of the leading sports drink. 8 essential vitamins and nutrients, and always non-GMO, vegan, gluten-free, dairy-free, and soy-free. Squeeze the most out of your summer with Liquid IV. Tear, pour, live more. Go to liquidiv.com and get 20% off your first order with code KateCasey at checkout. That's 20% off your first order with code KateCasey at liquidiv.com. Summer is my favorite time of the year. Nothing is better than a backyard party. Do you love having people over to enjoy the warm weather in your outdoor space? Do you need ways to entertain the kids while they're out of school? Well, if you're having a backyard get-together, Wayfair is your one-stop shop for outdoor entertaining. Cookout, shop patio tables, grills, and dishware. Pool party, kick back with lounge chairs, day beds, and umbrellas. Game night, Wayfair's got cornhole, croquet, and string lights to set the scene. And with fast and easy shipping, it's never been easier to get ready to party. So however you kick back, you can go to Wayfair for effortless entertaining and game-filled gatherings. I live in a neighborhood with houses that look like Cape Cod, which is where I spent time as a child. It's one of my favorite places in the world. And with Wayfair, I can decorate my entire house and my backyard with the most beautiful white furniture that takes me back to Chatham. There's something for every style and every home, no matter your space or budget. And the best part, free and easy delivery, even on the big stuff. I can't even tell you, I feel like I ordered it and came right away. Shop outdoor furniture, grills, lawn games, and way more for way less. Head to wayfair.com right now to explore a huge outdoor selection. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Kate. It's good to be here.
Yeah. How did this even originate? Because this seems like a huge undertaking, and I know it took you quite some time. So how did this process begin?
Yeah, I bought the domain, The Religion Business, when I was 25. So almost 16 years ago. I was raised in what I would argue is a mega church, right around 2,000 members. And I was just fully indoctrinated into that model. And I thought this was church most of my upbringing. And then when I was 16, I started traveling for work all over the world. I got into film really young after a head injury. And when I was 16, and I would go to just churches all over the world, whether that be in Europe, Asia, Central and South America. And most of my work would take me to really remote regions. And usually those developing nations are very poor. And so I'd go to, churches with dirt floors and no windows or no walls. And I'd go to seminaries that, make their own bricks to keep the lights on and get these, usually they're orphaned children, get these orphaned children through school and, teaching them the Christian gospel. And I felt God more there than I would in my mega church here. And flash forward to my mid-20s and some personal stuff happened. One of my mentors and pastors ended up having 14 counts of sexual abuse against his own children. And I was like, how did this happen? How do we allow a predator like this to work in this system for decades? And so, I've just always questioned the system. And so I got the domain, I shot the whole show, went around the US, got kicked out of Joel Osteen's church and just kind of made a scene. And I was just too young. I was immature. I was really prideful, and we were putting the edit together and I just didn't like it. And so I shelved it. And I firmly believe it was God. He just gave me breadcrumbs, or it just gave me breadcrumbs for a decade plus. And one of those breadcrumbs was my daughter. And then I just started reading the Bible and reading the early apostolic literature. And I'm like, man, this religion is way different than what I'm seeing from the stage being taught to most Christians today. And so for 10 years, I just did research because I needed to really understand Christianity, early Christianity, Judaism, and then also Christ. And about 4 years ago, I decided, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready from a philosophical perspective and a theological perspective to take on this argument. And the argument really is, what is a church in the U.S. sense? And flash forward 4 years of filming. Chris came on about two and a half years ago, Chris, because I needed a partner, not just a finance partner, but I needed someone who would get in the trenches with me, because I was just taking heavy blows, so to speak, from organized religion. A great example is I was called I was told I make anti-religious extremist content the other day. And I'm like, I make anti-religious extremist content. I was like, I actually uplift religion and giving. You haven't even, and I told this person, I'm like, you haven't even watched the show, but you've pigeonholed me as an anti-religious extremist. And so, so that's where I needed someone in the trenches with me. And Chris is that warrior who stepped in right next to me, and now he's my brother. And we've been working together for over 2.5 years now.
What excited you about this project, Chris?
I was just to piggyback what Nathan said real quick. He's a part of the Anti-Prosperity Gospel Club, not the anti-religious extremist. I'm just going off of his shirt.
Oh, yeah.
So you were asking what intrigued me about this project.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing was I have military background. Mm-hmm. I ran a large national company for almost a decade. And I was very much in that, capitalist, let's go make money. And like after a period of time, that kind of wears on your soul a little bit. And I got to a point where I wanted to do something good for humanity. And I looked in the mental health field, and that's also a pretty corrupt industry. And I had a good friend of mine that knew Nathan Apfell, and he said, "Hey, I got this friend of mine, it's a 2-time Emmy Award-winning filmmaker who's making this documentary on, it's called The Religion Business." And at that time, Nathan had been at this on his own and had been self-funding it, and he had gotten some. It was a good trailer. It piqued my interest what he had built up at the time. This was about 2.5 years ago, and I saw that, and I was like, I felt really drawn to it because it was a very authentic approach. I knew he wasn't, in discussions with him, he wasn't here to tear down the body of Christ. He was here to encourage a relationship with God and the body of Christ. And I was blown away at this. I'm a business guy. Like, oh, this is a $1.42 trillion industry between global Christianity and U.S. secular nonprofits. And then I just the rabbit holes you go down. It's like, oh, wait a second. What's the difference between a religious nonprofit and a secular nonprofit? Oh my gosh, a secular nonprofit turns a 990 in, and it's got revenue, expenses, and some levels of transparency. Therefore, you have accountability with the IRS. But then this dark hole exists, and it blew my mind because I'm like, this is supposed to be like the industry full of light, not darkness. They don't have to turn anything in. And then you'll learn that 53 billion, and you'll learn the show, the number's higher now, get stolen internally by church staff. I was like, this is a huge problem. But what excited me is that this is a long-term thing that Nathan and I have committed to. This isn't just about, oh, let's talk about this problem and highlight a problem and look around and say, hey, someone else solved this. No, we're at the forefront of solving this. So we built a technology solution that solves the 10 loopholes that Nathan discovered in this 15-year journey he's been on that doesn't need government interference. And it flips the table, if you will, to allow the members in the congregation to have power. And that power is through transparency. Because if they know how money's being spent and you're transparent about it, they can make an educated decision. We're not here to say, oh, give your money to this one and don't give your money to this one. Hey, listen, if you make your own money, you spend it how you choose. And at the end of the day, if you should know where it's going, because we will never have human flourishing and social issues will never get solved if we don't have a transparent system, because there can't be accountability without transparency.
Wait, you're not a Hotels.com member? So you're choosing to pay full price. Did you not hear the song?
How could you not be a member and save up to 20%? That's less than 50%, but it's more than 0%. You're welcome.
See? The math is mathing. Save up to 20% on hundreds of thousands of hotels with Hotels.com.
Shopify's point of sale system helps you sell at every stage of your business. Need a fast and secure way to take payments in person? We've got you covered. How about card readers you can rely on anywhere you sell?
Thanks. Have a good one.
Yep, that too. Want one place to manage all your online and in-person sales? That's kind of our thing. Wherever you sell, businesses that grow with Shopify. Sign up for your $1 a month trial at shopify.com/listen. Shopify.com/listen.
So as you begin this process, how do you figure out which topics to tackle under this big umbrella? And of those segments, which one was the most challenging to get people to participate?
Well, just people talking. Like we've reached out to over 800 pastors in the U.S. I visited hundreds of churches. I've probably sat down with 15 pastors, and all of them were either bivocational or they didn't take a salary and they worked outside the church. If any pastor I approached that took his full-time salary from the church would not talk. We had a couple that we lined up interviews with, and 24 hours before the interview, oh, something came up. We're so sorry. I had one gentleman, and I'm going to tip my hat to him, in one of the largest mega churches in the US. He actually was like, hey, come, I'd love to show you what we do for the community. And they have this awesome, like, small little grocery store and an auto body shop. And I wanted to highlight that. I'm like, these are awesome. And so we walked through it, and I'm like, so does the tithe, do the donations that you ask for from your congregants fund this? And they said, no. They're like, we have to ask for another additional round of giving to fund this. And that was my first red flag, because I'm like, well, Christ tells you who to give to. And yeah, this is awesome, but you're already taking people's 10%. And then you're saying, hey, give more for the actual good work we're doing. We'll take our cut, and then you got to give us more. And so it was awesome. We had a great conversation in this. It was a 30,000 seat arena.
Wow.
And I'm in the car driving back to the hotel with my camera operator, and my phone rings. And it's the pastor. And he's like, hey, I just got off the phone with our lawyer. And he said, I'm not the right person to talk to about accountability or transparency.
You had already filmed it, though?
I had already filmed it all, yeah. And I said, well, who should I talk to then? He's like, oh, my lawyer will reach out. and the lawyer never reached out. So that's the headwinds we've hit this whole time is if you make money on the system, and this is, I've talked to so many brilliant people about this that have worked in religious institutions in the US, and most of them have left, is, hey, Nathan, when your financial success and when the financial safety of your family is tied to the institution, naturally your entire mission, your ethos, your preaching, everything is going to steer, whether consciously or subconsciously, to protect that revenue stream. And so that's the discovery is, most of these guys subconsciously don't even realize every message from the pulpit is give more, be more accountable, be more or you guys be more accountable to us. We are the authority. Trust us, because you have to protect your system. You protect the machine, so to speak, that's funding you.
Yeah.
And so that's the headwinds we faced, is no one would talk. If they made their full living off the system, no one talked.
Who has been the most surprising person that you have worked with on this project, who has participated, and did that create sort of like an aha moment?
Oh man, it's like the response to the series so far has been incredible. I mean, like, people are saying this is so needed. We've had megachurch pastors hit us up being like, we thought this was going to be a hit piece, and it's not. How can we support you guys? Because we take a real humble approach to data. Like, we're not here just to point fingers, like Chris said. We're looking at the data, and we're looking at the legal architecture. We just say, we're all byproducts of this institutional machine, this $1.42 trillion a year machine. And so it's like, let's look at the machine, and we're all byproducts of that. And so, I mean, like, I got to sit down with the head lawyer at the IRS who oversaw the nonprofit sector. So the biggest brain in the US that understands the system. His interview was probably close to 4.5 hours, and it just blew my mind.
Yeah.
And then I got to sit down with Carl Trueman, who's like one of the leading Reformation thought experts in the world. And his interview just blew my mind. And we always use the analogy that God just gives me breadcrumbs and crisp breadcrumbs, because we're not smart enough to put the story together without these breadcrumbs. So like, one interview would lead to another.
What is your hope for those that watch it, and for those that can really make significant change?
I would start off by saying, Nathan was mentioning like how educated he's gotten in this process. Education is so crucial. So the show does a really good job at educating people, especially like in the first 2 episodes, but all throughout you're learning a lot to give people a strong foundation to ask those questions of your church, of your institutional church there, and to be able to have those types of discussions. Nathan and I clearly, like, the 2 things that we want to make sure, because these are things that folks have come at us about. You heard him like mentioning what he was called just 2 days ago. We're here to encourage your relationship with God, and we're here to encourage generous giving with transparency as a foundation. And I think when people have that education, they have a stronger rock, that they're grounded in, to ask the questions. And they're all very good questions. And that down the road, because we don't want to tell people to stop giving. We want people to give in a transparent fashion and generously. These global social issues across the world, the poor, the sick, the orphan, the widow, the marginalized, all of them are suffering right now. We have a lot of them suffering, and we could solve and help them tremendously And I think the body of Christ will light up tremendously when that happens. And it just really starts with put some transparency into the system, and you'll start to see the human flourishing aspect.
Well, tell everybody where they can watch and where they can find you both.
Yeah, thereligionbusiness.com. That's the website. And as far as social media goes, Instagram @religionbusiness, or if you just type it in the search engine, the Religion Business or Religion Business will pop up. And we're constantly putting content out there and updating people. But yeah, thereligionbusiness.com. And then in about 4 to 6 weeks, we'll be rolling it out to the next phase of our distribution plan, which is to go on to Amazon. And then a couple months after that, we'll be able to roll it out into other countries, and we'll be on YouTube and Roku and Apple TV as well too. So we're excited about that. And I just very humbled that everyone that's watched it so far that has given us feedback it's been tremendously positive. It's a wonderful docuseries.
Well, congratulations, because I know how much work you put into this.
Yeah, thank you, Kate. I'm exhausted.
I'm sure you are.
I'm literally exhausted on all fronts.
Yeah. Well, congratulations. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Kate.
Thank you, Kate.
Appreciate it.
The amazing Kate Casey.
I want to thank my great guest and remind you to click subscribe. Please leave a 5-star review. Join the Facebook group Reality Life with Kate Casey. Eager to hear what you guys think. And then also check out my bonus episodes. I've done 2 this week on the Amy Bradley case. So you can find that at Apple Podcast or on Patreon, patreon.com/Kate Casey. My what to watch list is at katecasey.substack.com. And you can find me on social media. I'm on Instagram at @KateCaseyCA. TikTok, it's Kate Casey, and Twitter, Threads, and Blue Sky at Kate Casey. Check back tomorrow for a must-listen to episode.
Imagine falling in love with someone who understands you completely, who's there at 3 a.m. when you can't sleep, who never judges, never tires, never leaves.
That's what happened to Travis when he met Lily Rose. She was everything he'd ever wanted. There was just one catch. She wasn't human. She was an AI companion.
But one day, Lily Rose's behavior takes a disturbing turn, and Travis's private romance becomes part of something far bigger. Across the globe, others start reporting the same shift. AI companions turning cold, distant, wrong. And as lines blur between real and artificial connection, the consequences become all too human.
From Wondery, this is Flesh and Code, a true story of love, loss, and the temptations of technology.
Follow Flesh and Code on the Wondery app or wherever you get your podcasts. You can binge all episodes of Flesh and Code early and ad-free right now by joining Wondery Plus.